All right, what's happening in the world? Let's go through it because there's Joe Marsh's AMA. A word from CEO's T1 Joe Marsh. We would like to thank all the fans who supported T1. To give you some context, the timing in AMA on October 2nd, Evan Cree used our approach to this opportunity. AMA. Okay, here we go. AMA. This just came up, but is it true that T1 couldn't even meet the 2 billion Korean won that Han Yi, Chinese streamer, mentioned? Is it true that T1 couldn't agree the terms with Zeus to meet his demands? That is not true. Oh my god, this music. We were never given the opportunity to match any offer. Additionally, the agent did not present any counteroffers to the proposal we had set. We had never received a counteroffer from Zeus' player agent. We never had a matched offer. Can you just show how much Zeus is getting paid by signaling with your fingers? You'd have to ask Zeus or better yet try his agent if you actually get him on the table. I think you have to ask Zeus about this, otherwise it would be better to ask Zeus' agent. How much was Zeus' offer from T1? It would not be appropriate for me to disclose these details. What I can share with you, aiming to give each player their sub-salary in their respective position with this goal as a foundation. We negotiated with all the player agents, including Zeus, throughout the process. Yeah, chat, I need to find... Can someone just break it down for me? Because I think the translation is literally coming from my Google Chrome as well. Oh no, it's not. How much was the difference in the offer amounts between T1 and Hammerlife? Again, in keeping with our aim to give each player's top salary, we were fully prepared to match any offer Zeus received, but unfortunately we were not given the opportunity to do so. The agent imposed an artificial deadline, claiming it was set by Hammerlife. However, after Zeus made his decision to leave, we spoke with Hammerlife and they had confirmed that no such deadline was ever established. I think what happened, now I might be wrong, but I think I saw a summary about it by one person's tweet that was... T1 offers Zeus, agent ghosts T1. T1 says, hey, please, can we talk to them? Agent continues to ghost T1. So then T1 just signs Doran and says, fuck that. And then the agent got fucked. Or some shit. Like, they fucked over the agent by doing that. Or some shit.
XDD my rat.
How much was the difference? Okay, we saw that. I'm curious about the exact details and process of Zeus' departure. When was the decision made? I'd also like to know how the other players reacted and what the atmosphere within the team is like. From our standpoint, Zeus made a decision on the first day of the free agency period. Throughout the time leading up to that day, we had to get the impression that we were getting closer to an agreement until the mood suddenly changed around noon. As for how the other players reacted in the atmosphere within the team, we believe those conversations should remain private out of respect for everyone involved. Okay. How does it feel to let go of true homegrown talent? I wouldn't categorize Zeus' departure of T1 letting him go. We wanted Zeus to remain in T1 with many years to come and made effort to make it happen. However, as it is every player's life, he ultimately chose to leave. Naturally, we're all deeply disappointed by his decision. We believe that the environment we built at T1 resources we provide and that we treat him and our players make this the best place in the world for League of Legends players to thrive. While it's so hard to see him go, we respect his choice and wish him the best. Stories around... I'm curious about behind-the-scenes stories of the off-season. The stories around Zeus' departure is covered in other answers. As for Doran, when we interviewed him, he said that he had always admired T1 and he favored his style of playing aggressively and can be better suited on T1. On another note, we've always thought of Doran highly. Of the sheer amount of practice he puts in when analyzing our opponents, he was always someone who stood out, who practiced the most. What's the biggest factor of losing Zeus? The biggest factor in losing Zeus, in my view, was the influence of his agent and their agency. This particular group has had a history of prioritizing financial gain over a broader perspective of what's truly best for a player. Their approach often overlooks key factors like team legacy, player development, and long-term career success. Unfortunately, the tactics and gamesmanship used in this situation were not consistent with how professional agents typically operate. While the agent has since called to apologize, I believe that gesture was more about saving face than genuine sincerity. Actions speak louder than words, and their behavior in this matter revealed their true character. It's worth noting that T1 provided an environment where Zeus thrived, contributing to back-to-back world championships. We met all the criteria for a player of his caliber, both in terms of competitive success and career growth. This is the same agency that attempted to move Zeus to China last year for a higher payday, and it was only through Zeus' own initiative, reaching out to Coma, that he ultimately stayed with T1. This pattern of prioritizing financial incentives over what's best for the player's overall future is concerning. While we respect Zeus' decision, it's unfortunate the player influence of an agency played such a significant role. I mean, agents basically get about 10 to 15% of... Oh, the donors are way to think. Sorry. Agents typically get around 10 to 15% of a player salary. So if you sign a player for $3 million, the agent will get 300k. Boom. And obviously, the higher it is, the more money they'll get. How do you feel about breakup of ZOFGK? It was always tough when the chapter ends. They've not only been the greatest roster in T1 history, but also the greatest roster of all time in esports. What they've accomplished together over the past 3 years is nothing short of incredible, and it's been an honor to witness. Zeus' decision to leave T1 is one I respect deeply. While it's sad to see him go, he will always have a home here at T1. Like every player who's been a part of this organization, he's left an indelible mark on our history, and we'll always celebrate. Pride and joy. Is there a significant difference in the size of the deal offered to Zeus by T1 Hammerlife? If given the chance, we would have matched any offer Zeus had received, basically. Even if it was just for a 1-year deal. We told him we were told he wanted long-term security, and we were ready to work to make that happen. However, we were not given the opportunity to match any offers presented to him. Did T1 actually sit down at the negotiation table with Zeus? Was it that you couldn't retain him, or that you chose not to? You had time to release exclusive articles, but couldn't secure Zeus. We submitted multiple proposals during the process, but we never received a counter proposal from Zeus' agent. On Tuesday, we were told that both the agent and Zeus would come to T1 headquarters to finalize the deal. However, the agent didn't show up and instead closed a deal somewhere else without ever sitting down on the table negotiating with us directly. As for the article, it was published after Zeus had made his decision. We knew how much the T1 fan cherished Zeus and the ZOFGK roster, and we felt like it was important to communicate the truth directly with our fans. Allowing Josh to speak with the reporter was a deliberate choice to prevent misinformation or internet rumors from spreading, which could have hurt Zeus and his family. Our intention was always to provide clarity and transparency. How quickly was Doran signed? As soon as we were notified that Zeus would be signing with Hammerlife, Becker and Josh reached out to Doran's agency and quickly finalized the deal. Yo, Doran just picked up that phone and just said yes before they said hello. Doran showed tremendous appreciation for everything T1 offers. As an organization, was eager to be part of T1, which made it easy to come to terms on a deal that worked for both sides. We hope the fans give Doran all their love. Could you share the direction T1 had in mind this offseason? The goal this offseason was to bring back the ZOFGK roster. In doing so, we aimed to give each player the top salary in their respective position. Was there any conflict between Zeus and T1 during the Stove League contract process? I don't know if that's mistranslation. I'm also curious about why Zeus' photos are being removed so quick. From T1's perspective, there was no conflict with Zeus during the contract process. Our frustration lies with how his agent handled negotiations. Despite multiple proposals, the agent never responded to the counteroffer. When the agent visited our office in person, we anticipated he would bring a counter-proposal to facilitate dialogue. Instead, he said he had nothing to say, which struck us as odd. Even if their counter had been something unattainable like 4 billion won, it would have at least allowed for us discussion. The agent had assured us that he and Zeus would visit T1 HQ between 10 a.m. and noon to finalize the deal. However, they never arrived. At that point, Josh and Becker made the decision to drive out to meet and negotiate with Zeus and his agent in person to no avail. Regarding Zeus' photos being removed with decision signed to Hammerlife, T1 no longer retains his rights. As such, we update our online platforms and facilities accordingly. Makes sense. Could you share the behind-the-scenes detail of the contract renewals? On the day of signing, Karya had a shaved head for the military, so we went to his home. Both the owner and Gumiushi came to T1 headquarters to expedite the negotiations along with their agents, which showed their eagerness to get the signing done. I'm curious about the process of signing Doran. Signing Doran was very smooth and straightforward. He wanted to join T1, values what we offer as an organization, is eager to compete. We expect Doran to perform at the highest level and uphold the T1 legacy. That said, we don't expect Doran to be Zeus. He is his own man and should be judged based on his results at T1, not compared to his performances on other teams. I remember when we announced that our FGK roster in the winter of 2021, many people were concerned about Zeus stepping up into the roster for Kana, questioning whether we would be able to succeed. Fast forward 3 years, that group made history. My point is, trust Koma, Faker, Tom, Owner, Gumiushi, Karya, and Mata to come together and complete at their highest level. We believe in their ability and we hope our fans will as well. Did issues arise in Zeus' transfer due to the negotiation approach taken by the agent and the player? Was that approach centered around creating pressure with a fixed deadline? The issues surrounding our negotiations with Zeus stemmed entirely from the approach taken by his agent. In any negotiation, it's customary to provide counteroffers and maintain open dialogue, none of which happened. Instead, we were met with silence regarding our proposals. Negotiations typically start at a reasonable point to allow for room for compromise, but the agent's approach was far from standard. From what we've learned, the artificial deadline the agent referenced was something he created, not the other team. While agents are free to use their own negotiation tactics, throughout this process, T1 was not treated with respect.
Less than three.
One would expect for the organization that raised Zeus since 2019. Instead, it felt like we were treated like strangers, or worse, like a bottom-tier team with no standing to sign his client. The lack of respect was disappointing, particularly given Zeus' history and connection with T1. To add insult to injury, we were indeed surprised to see a sudden about face in the tone. Throughout the entire negotiation, Zeus' agent kept insisting that he wanted to stay at T1 and that they wanted him to stay as well. Even on the opening day of free agency until 1 p.m, we felt like we were approaching an agreement, and the agent and we were going to finalize the deal after lunch. Then suddenly, 1:50 p.m, the agent called to tell us that Zeus decided to go to Hammerlife. It's important to note that we had no issues with the agents rejecting the other 3 players. When disagreements arose regarding teams, those agents kept the dialogue open and worked collaboratively towards a deal. By contrast, the agent representing Zeus did not operate in that way and indicated any real desire to reach an agreement with T1. So it's very repetitive what's happening here, but I think everyone kind of gets it. They're finalizing the LCK roster, and they'll be working on the CL roster. He has signed a new top laner so far, and is looking to sign the others. So it's Zeus who decided on Hammerlife. I don't know. I don't think there's no confirmation that Zeus said, I want Hammerlife. Is there? It seemed that there was a strong determination for T1 to maintain the roster. At the end of the day, each player has a personal right to decide whether they stay or want to stay with T1. While we had a strong desire to maintain the roster, the final decision ultimately rests with the players, especially for the players at T1. They're not just athletes, they're individual businesses with families to support. Each player must weigh what matters to them most, and we hope that aligns with what they want to T1. As for the broad context, in my opinion, the introduction of the SFR was designed to promote parity in the LCK, making it difficult for iconic rosters like ZFGK to stay together. That's the luxury tax, right? While we respect the intent behind the system, it does create challenges for teams trying to maintain a consistency and legacy. Alright, is there anything... If T1 is not lacking in transfer funds compared to Hammerlife, why was Zeus let go? Was the request from Zeus' agent unreasonable? The agent never counter-offered a single proposal from T1 and never gave us the opportunity to match any offers. If the issue was strictly about money, the agent didn't communicate that. Give us X, Y, Z and we will sign. As I mentioned before, we were told they would come to HQ to discuss. However, they didn't show up. Is there any reason behind the scenes why only Gumushi was given a 1 year? Gumushi thrives on betting on himself, and having a 1 year deal keeps him motivated and hungry. He has an exceptional mindset and is incredibly mentally strong. I did respect how he carries himself, his maturity beyond. Kuma is the embodiment of T1. He bleeds red and black. His commitment to the team is unwavering. There are rumors that Zeus' agent dragged out the negotiations process until the very end of Keen's negotiations, avoiding meetings to jack up the salary. Is this true? I cannot confirm if those rumors are true without concrete proof. During the Stove League, I think Stove League is contract negotiations, is my guess. Just a translation error. It's often difficult to separate fact from speculation, or off-season maybe, Stove League. That said, if the agent truly wanted to finalize the deal with T1, he had every opportunity to do so. Is the reason Zeus left because of money? Only Zeus can answer that question. What I can say is how much I respect Zeus for everything he's done with T1. He's been an integral part, and I don't believe he is the type of person to make decisions solely based on money. Zeus loved his teammates. At T1 we worked hard to create championship winning culture. I hope Zeus enjoyed his time with T1. Are there any other demands from Zeus' side beside money? We were initially told that Zeus was interested in a long-term contract, but that's not the agreement he ultimately signed. Throughout the process, we were never presented with specific demands because the agent never countered any of our proposals. Instead, we were left to play the guessing game with the agents, frequently shifting the terms, particularly around contract length, which was the most frustrating. However, what was most frustrating, however, was the lack of transparency. We value honesty and we believe that our response... Okay, so it's basically the same thing again and again and again. We initiated discussion with Doran only after being informed of Zeus' departure. Doran's background achievements made him an ideal fit. When we look at the transfer process of Kenin's Genji and Ruler's JDG, it seems the fans of the previous teams could predict the moves through interviews, videos, and both internal and external community circumstances. It appeared that those 2 players left with a justified reason. However, for Zeus, the transfer feels harder to understand and it feels very sudden. If it was for the money, it's hard to accept that since the CEO publicly announced the re-signing, and there was also good news of a sponsor being secured. Can you explain to the T1 fans and why Zeus, a homegrown superstar, moved to a domestic rival team? I honestly can't answer that question. It's something why only Zeus can explain himself. From our perspective, T1 offers everything they can to a professional player. It's the same thing again. For a player like Zeus who rose through our system, I believe ZFGK would be the natural choice. It's difficult to me to speculate on why Zeus chose to move, and I don't think it would be fair on him to do so. What I do know is that the ZFGK roster was the greatest team of all time. Okay. My god, these questions. What is this? As the CEO, I'm curious about what you're doing. What do you actually want to achieve from the beginning? Could you explain the reason for leaving the championship team stem from someone's incompetence? Do you even watch League of Legends matches? What efforts do you put to make regarding the player's skills and relationships? Our goal was to re-sign ZFGK. We're fully committed to this. Every player has their own motivations, needs, and circumstances. Ultimately, whether they stay or league is their personal choice, no matter how much T1 wants to keep them. Becker and Josh worked tirelessly day after day and night to try and bring everyone back. There was no lack of motivation. Yes, I watch League of Legends extensively. 6 hours of scrims daily in all the matches. Watching that much League is how I stay in tune with the team's pulse, and I speak with Becker every day to ensure we're aligned on what the players need. At T1, we provide extensive support for our players, including access to mental health coaches, doctors, trainers, physical therapists, and a team chef. We take pride in creating an environment where our players can focus on performing at their best, both on and off the Rift. Okay, they're explaining the salary difference as well. They're talking about the deadlines, 3:40, 3 p.m. If given the chance, we are ready to negotiate a match. Any offer Zeus to keep the roster intact. However, we're not given the opportunity. Despite this, he made the decision to resign somewhere else. Initially, the night before, the agent informed us that he and Zeus would be at the... So it sounds like the agent said, yo, we'll be at your headquarters at 10 a.m. to finalize the contract and discuss and give you our counteroffer. We'll book 10 a.m. to midday and we'll figure this out. But then he didn't show up. Zeus didn't show up. So by the time we got to 12 o'clock, it sounds like T almost like, what the fuck? So then they drove to see Zeus, but they couldn't get to him in time or something, and Zeus had already just signed to Hammerlife. After Zeus decided to leave, we spoke to other coaches and asked who they prefer, and Doran was that person. I trust Koma and Tom. Tion wants to keep Zeus. It was the player's choice to leave, which is well right, earned right. Tion was unified and winning to keep ZFGK. Where is the agent? I feel like I don't want to go through this much more because I feel like he's repeating himself because he can't say certain things. He's just saying the agent fucked him over. What is the... Apparently the agency said some stuff. Hello, this is the agency that represents Zeus. We sincerely thank all the fans who have continued to support Zeus, and we deeply apologize for the concerns caused to our fans during the recent regarding the transfer. Recently, Zeus transferred from T1 to Hammerlife, and fans have been expressing various opinions regarding his transfer. Respecting Zeus's wishes to avoid escalating disputes with his previous team T1, which had been a close ally, our agency initially refrained from making an official statement. However, as the MMA session announced on the early morning of November 22nd contained factual inaccuracies and other misleading content, the agency has decided to investigate the facts by consulting with both Hammerlife and Zeus to issue a statement. Our intention is clear: to communicate the facts, to prevent misunderstandings and damage, and to sincerely convey the positions of both Zeus and our agency. We hope this statement will deliver the truth. Here is the translation of the table of contents. Okay, it's not that long actually. Alright, 12th of November, the first round of the negotiations T1 and the agency held in Gangnam. Initial pros from T1 under review. 15th of November, second round of direct negotiations between T1 and the agency, reassessing. 16th of November, first preliminary negotiation, second proposal from T1 rejected with review based on market value. 17th, preliminary negotiation rejected with review. So basically they're declining offers because they want to get to November 19th for free agency period to see offers from other teams so they can see how much Zeus is worth. 18th, they probably rejected again. Rejected. 19th, now we're on the free agency period. Morning negotiations to the player about the final terms expected to be delivered during lunch. Proposal made by the agency. 10 a.m. 19th of November. Negotiations begin regarding terms of additional clauses. Proposal made by T1 by the agency. 11:40. Delivery of the first counter proposal made by T1. So apparently T1 did make a counter proposal. At 1 p.m. they delivery of the final response to counter proposal made by the agency. At 1:50, rejection of T1's final proposal made by the agency. At 2:10, direct communication between the player and T1 complete proposal. So they're saying the complete opposite. They're saying we were talking to them all day. And they were giving counter proposals and they were rejecting them. At 2:50, inquiry about the final proposal made by the agency. Direct communication between the player and T1 complete the proposal made by T1. 3 p.m, delivery of the final proposal made by T1. 3:20, delivery of the second counter proposal made by the agency. 3:30, negotiations concluded due to T1's inability to accept the counter proposal final decision made by the agency. So by 3:30, they're essentially saying that T1's unable to accept any counter proposals. We're out. During the priority negotiation period on the 19th, the agency consistently engaged in good faith discussion with T1, even while emphasizing their desire to assess the player's market value in the free agency. On the 19th, despite entering the free agency market, neither the agency or Zeus agreed to any direct discussions with T1 before 10 a.m. or after 3 p.m. So they're basically saying there was no meeting at T1 headquarters. On November 19th, negotiations with T1 continued constructively without considering overseas transfers. A 3 p.m. deadline was communicated to T1 as per the request of Hammerlife Esports. The negotiations ultimately concluded as T1 was unable to meet the terms by 3:30 p.m., leading to a termination of talks. So the agency's perspective is a lot different. It sounds like they were going back and forth all day until around 3 p.m. And they gave them a deadline because they said, T1, stop fucking around. This is all bollocks what you're trying to give us.
Let's go, man.
And eventually,
Seems good.
by 3:30 p.m., they couldn't meet the terms that they wanted. I don't know. This is just he says, she says, basically. Like, it's he says, she says. I don't know. The timeline is tight, though, if you think about it. 3:10, delivery of the final proposal made by T1. 3:20, delivery of the second counter proposal made by the agency. 3:30, negotiations concluded. So what this essentially says is like, at 3:10, T1 made a final proposal. At 3:20, the agency made a final or like a second counter proposal to their final proposal. And then at 3:30, when this second counter proposal was received by the agency, they rejected it because of T1's inability to accept the counter proposal. So within 10 minutes, it sounds like T1 rejected their counter proposal. It's like, hey, this is what we want. T1 was like, hey, have this. Agency was like, nope, this is what we want. 3:30, T1 was like, no. And then I think, actually, I don't actually know. T1 probably didn't even say no to this. I think what this sounds like is they gave them a counter proposal. Hey, we want this. And then after 10 minutes, they were like, actually, you're not accepting it, we're out. So they gave them 10 minutes to accept it. But I don't know, it depends. Like, it obviously depends on what their form of communication is. If they're on the phone, then 10 minutes is fair enough. But if it's like, or if they're in person, but if it's like email or something, obviously it's a bit different. All right, from the beginning of his professional career, during the trade-on period, Zeus devoted himself to T1. During the 2023 free market negotiations, T1 presented a contract terms that were unacceptable. The agency supported Jace. I called him Jace. Zeus. In exploring other teams while still leaving the final decision to him. However, Zeus ultimately chose to pursue a direct negotiations with T1 to demonstrate his loyalty. In 2024, Zeus acknowledged T1's legacy and agreed to negotiate on the condition that he would be prioritized at T1 re-signing if the terms were reasonable and matched offers from other teams. Despite this, T1 made offers that failed to reflect the player's contributions, particularly as a key team member in securing back-to-back World Championship victories. T1 claims that the conditions proposed reflected a long-term deal for the player. However, the proposed terms were not objectively advantageous towards Zeus, making it difficult for him to agree. The final terms proposed. So basically, there's a lot of back and forth here. Basically, T1 saying we got ghosted by the agent, and the agent is saying they had plenty of time to accept our counter offers, but they weren't meeting the standard that we wanted for Zeus. But it's interesting that Hammerlife was involved. It sounds like Hammerlife said, hey, you have 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes to sort this out or whatever, or like 3 p.m. Did HLE set a 3 p.m. deadline? HLE will likely have to come out and clarify this themselves. Yeah, HLE's been dragged into this now as well. But this is like, obviously it's all drama, right? It's like, he said this, she said that, he said this, she said that. So we'll never really, I don't think we'll ever really find the truth unless someone wants to start leaking the DMs, you know? Like Joe Marsh says AMA, says the agency was fucking them over. Agency makes a statement saying, nope, we were in full communication with them. If Hammerlife comes in and says, actually, no, there was no deadline, and they make that statement, or someone from Hammerlife says, no, there was no deadline, then obviously the agent looks like a fucking clown ass. Wouldn't that just hurt Hammerlife? I don't know. I don't know how the relationships work. I don't think Hammerlife will make a statement. I think Hammerlife will just stay out of it. I think the best thing for everyone now is to let it die down. Just time, I think. Let it sink in for everyone. Let everyone calm down and then just go next. I think that's what's gonna happen. Jesus, this turned into a fucking massive drama. Anyway, in other news, Nongshim have announced Lehens and Kingen. Yo, Nongshim has upgraded big time. Instead of Dun, they got Kingen. And instead of, I mean, who did they have support? They were fucking around with so many different supports and PETA and shit. Now they have Lehens. So they got good macro and solid top laner. Fisher and Jiwoo are underrated carries. Sylvie's alright. Roster is probably mid-tier. Probably contest with KDF. Or like similar to last year's KDF. Or this year's KDF, I guess. What else? Even though it's crazy how Fisher was disgusting in LPL and then he comes to LCK and he's actually fine. What else is happening? I think that's it for now. Mata signs a multi-year deal with T1. Maple parts ways with PSG Talon, who has announced his retirement. 07 Maple. Maple is retired from professional League of Legends. We will not see him again, chat. Maple the GOAT. Maple the GOAT, indeed. By the way, I just want to say something real quick to the Chattermans. I'm going to make a Reddit post about it tomorrow. There is a lot of T1 posts, and I appreciate there's a lot of T1 news on here right now, but Pedro Pipos was made to be a stream, like a Reddit page for the stream, just like all the things that happen on stream, whether it's clips or anything. Then it slowly transitioned into like esports news, because obviously we're doing a lot of co-streaming, and I appreciate that we're doing a lot of co-streaming, so I think esports news is great. And I think keeping up to date on the esports news is really easy for me, because like this time 6 months ago, instead of going to the League Reddit, I could just open up my Reddit and I could see all the news of what's happening in the world. I get that there's a lot of T1 stuff happening right now, but there is, and I know people are, like, even the T1 fans, I think, are trying as well. Someone, a T1 fan made this post saying to all the T1 fans in Pedro subreddit, we're spamming it. There's a lot of chaos in sub, and it's being flooded with T1 posts. Guys, I'm going to make a Reddit post about it as well. We need to just cut down on the T1 posts big time. Like, I appreciate T1 fans. I love you all a lot. If you want to make T1 posts about funny memes or arts and stuff like that, I would love it if you could just use the T1 subreddit for that. This subreddit is mainly for like esports news, big headlines, stream highlights, stream funny clips, anything that's going on. Because right now it's just a lot of T1 stuff. And I get it. The Dora and Zeus news is crazy. But like Los Ratones to me is like my biggest project right now, and this is like the streams Reddit, and the Los Ratones post, for example, is like 7 posts down. So I'd appreciate it if you're a Caedrel fan and you want to stick around, 100% love it. But I'd appreciate if we could just get rid of a lot of these T1 posts, like the memes, for example. Agents wake up and see Doran as soon as T1 called. Like, don't get me wrong, it's funny, but maybe that needs to go on the T1 Reddit, you know. I'm all here for like the T1 news though, right? If, for example, what I think is a valid post is T1 resigns Mata. Boom, esports news. Slam it on the Reddit. Would love to read it. Perfect. Lehens is resigned to Nongshim. Love it. I can open up the Reddit in the mornings and then me and the chat can go through it all. But like these memes and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't really think we need it on the Reddit. So this is for like esports news, esports big moments, esports dramas, maybe if we want to go through it, and stream stuff. So I'll make a Reddit post later today about it. And I think we'll start cutting back a lot on the posts. Memes are good. Memes are good. Memes are good. Memes are good. I take that back. Memes are good.